no crisis, not called by the people, then to be in that place of refuge with guns out before infants. Some people accept that, I don't. To chase him downstairs. No evidence that he had a knife or a gun. Evidence says he was shot on the floor.
Why is it okay for you to weave the story from the eyewitnesses, but it isn't okay for the police to do the same thing? Those two, I'm not defending the cops, and I'm not criticizing the witnesses. I'm asking why it's okay for you to weave the story of the witnesses, but it is not okay for the police chief to weave the story of the cops.
If he wants to defend the cops, it's his right to weave his story. If he thinks it's all right.
No, that's not the question I asked, sir.
It's okay for the police to have his point of view. I have a different point of view. I don't think police should come into a sanctuary uninvited.
But you are assuming that the witness's report is fact, and it may well be, but we do not know that yet.
Well, I do assume the witnesses to be credible. I do. Several witnesses that were in the toddler's room with the gun out. We do know he was shot in the back on the floor of the church. So those are fairly substantial circumstantial information.
It is circumstantial.
Reverend, I did talk to the mayor about this very point Sunday after your meeting with the mayor. We went up and talked to him. And I mentioned that very point. He talked about how we have had a rash in this country of late of people going into churches and gunning down people. We had Dr. Tiller out in Kansas, and we've had some other instances, one right here in southern Illinois, and he was saying, well, what if we had a situation where someone was going to do harm to people in a church? Shouldn't we pursue that person?
Yeah.
And the point is, you don't know exactly what's going on at the moment.
This is not a hypothetical. The people who shot Dr. Tiller at the church, these were not police. These are not officers of the law, and they shouldn't have shot him in the church for their ideological reasons. So I don't want to equate the police and those terrorists who killed the doctor. I don't want to make that equation. Of course, one of the police, his credibility is in question. He shot 4 different people, you know.
We have reported all this.
Indeed,
We're absolutely. We got to get back to this thing.
Yeah.
We're not saying that the police have done everything well. We're the ones who have reported Oda Poole's and North's records.
Yes.
We also are the ones who reported the first eyewitness accounts, in which eyewitnesses were saying 8 to 9 shots were fired. And the subsequent stories have added more and or different context to all of that. So we've reported it all. The issue is not about what's been reported, not about what's on the record. The issue is the leap to judgment when the investigations are not completed. That's what concerns me. Whether it's you leaping to judgment or Chief Epperson leaping to judgment. To us, it's the same.
I must say I give credence to these eyewitnesses. They're very credible witnesses. And the fact that after they told what they saw, just saw Mrs. Brown go through another breakdown a few minutes ago. Her and her daughter were taken to the police and were held for several hours as suspects, not as witnesses. They were interrogated in separate rooms without lawyers there. It just seems to break the law. As for going in church, if you have a situation where there's a hostage and there's a call for help, that is a circumstance. here, Mrs. Brown says she knew Marcus. They felt no threat. So they were not called.
Again, all of this will play out when the investigations are completed.
I think there's a sense of urgency.
Absolutely. The investigations need to be done quickly. The editorial board has said that repeatedly. However, you don't see the editorial board saying, this is right and this one was wrong. We don't know. We were not there. And it concerns me that the use of the words murder, the use of the words credible witnesses, as in eyewitnesses, but not credible witnesses, as in the police, judgments have been made.
I guess you know.
And your profile is so high, Reverend Jackson, that it carries a great deal of credibility, and you know that. So,
that's why I wanted to see where the shots went, talk with the embalmers. That's why I wanted to walk through the journey with Mrs. Brown and her daughter. So I wanted to see the place. I wanted to see what the toddlers were. So I wanted to see where he was, where he was shot. No evidence of a gun or knife that he held. Now, there's a lot of information stacked up there.
Absolutely, without question.
And people have arrived at conclusions.
They have, there's no doubt.
Our call is for an FBI, not a local investigation.
Yeah, and ours was too. We're not on different sides, but our call was for the outside investigation because it was the right thing to do. The second step wasn't to recreate either side. And that's my concern, is that with your profile and your credibility, people believe your reenactment, even though we do not know. You may prove to be 100% right.
Ms. Cunningham, there's also a great credibility gap between this police department, a substantial number of citizens from this city.
Agreed.
It is underrepresented in its numbers, in its power.
Agreed. It's not a surprise to us.
Right. And so the people who have the most fear and the most anger have a different timetable. One of my issues was to redirect some of that anger and anguish towards some positive agenda of jobs in the house and education, trying to steer it. But there is a sense that this is like a line people want to draw in the sand, and this is not a shootout. Pretty cold blood.
Is that why you went and wanted to look and see things for yourself, as you didn't necessarily trust the police report verbatim or what the police were going to, you wanted to?
I've seen so many police reports that were in contrast to eyewitnesses. I'm glad that this matter of another issue of Gates and Crowley and the president got resolved kind of quickly. And
I'm sorry that I didn't.
Gates and Crowley and the president. I'm glad that got solved rather quickly. As credible as Crowley was, his police report was false. They just kind of stopped it. The gap between his police report and the witnesses was different. I mean, police just do this. The police report on Diallo was false. And so we see a pattern that leads to a kind of mistrust. And when you don't have reasonable representation in the police department, there's no credible cushion within. And that is the grievance, ultimately, is Marcus, but the grievance is the underrepresentation. The lack of, police should be all formed by the people. This police department does not represent the fullness of Rockford.
You know Rockford, and you've certainly made Rockford a piece of your home. That also should mean you know the editorial board positions that we have espoused over the last 25 years. There is nothing that you are saying that is a surprise to this board, or that this board has not stuck its neck out on countless times.